Yo, what's up guys, this is Sleet, welcome back to another video, and today I want to talk about Leroy Sané going to Bayern Munich. I know this transfer took place a couple of weeks ago, and while at the time I felt really distraught about it, and I still do, and that's why I'm making this video now, I wanted to see how maybe City would react in the transfer market and what kind of wingers we might go after to replace Sané. And now that we have signed a replacement in Ferran Torres, I think I want to discuss why I think that this might be Pep's biggest mistake that he's made as a Manchester City manager. From the very first moment that City were linked with Leroy Sané, I was extremely excited. Like, I don't know how to put into words how much I had already enjoyed watching him. And then to see such a young talent be linked to your team, it's just always very exciting because you're excited to see how they might grow and the player they might become while they're playing for you. Guys like that, as people I can kind of like model my play style after, in terms of dribbling at the very least, or how to take the ball, receive the ball, move with it. And when Sané was at Schalke, I really did enjoy watching him. He burst onto the scene. I remember watching the game, Schalke versus Real Madrid. I forget what the score was, but I remember there's a bunch of goals. Huntelaar scored a crazy goal, but I remember Sané coming in, looking super young, and then scoring a curler from outside the box, or the edge of the box, and immediately I was drawn to him. And I went on to watch him then in the league for Schalke. I think it was the following year. And I'm not sure if it was that year or the year after where he won the Young Player of the Year in the Bundesliga. But what I liked most about him was that he was very direct and he liked to take people on. He wasn't afraid to take people on. And to an extent, if you're on the line, nobody could catch him. He's easily one of the fastest players in the world, and that's important being a winger because it's not something you can teach. As much as you can coach into a player dribbling and how they receive the ball, passing, crossing, shooting, and these are things you can build up. And we've seen under Pep, players like Sterling really build their game in terms of finishing, and with help from Arteta when he was the assistant manager, helping guys like Mahrez, Sané, Sterling get better in terms of receiving the ball and knowing how to move and like work in tight spaces. There are just certain physical elements to a player that you can't teach, and Sané has a lot of strengths going for him that a lot of other players don't have. It's very rare that somebody is 6'1" like he is, and so incredibly fast. I think the only player in the league that, at least for the eye test, that is similarly quick to him was Adama Traore. I know that comparison, or maybe saying that those are the two fastest players in the league, might not stack up in terms of what the top speeds recorded are for certain players, but top speeds can be misleading in terms of like when a player reaches their top speed in a sprint might only be for a second. Somebody might hit a top speed that's really fast, but on average they're not anywhere near that. There's also like a million players that are fast but don't have the other aspects to their game in terms of finishing and passing. But Sané did, and he still does, and that's why I think it's a real big mistake to let him go. In terms of goals and assists, Sané is a lot more like evenly rounded than I think somebody like Sterling is. Sterling is more of like a goal scorer. Other wingers like Mahrez are more of like assist getters. Leroy is very good at balancing those two. He scores about as many goals as he assists, and vice versa. And at the end of seasons, he's normally pretty similar in terms of what he's accomplishing. During his time at City, he did win the Young Player of the Year award. I think it was 2 seasons ago. And in that season, he showed just how good he can be when he's given a run in the team, or he's consistently played. And I don't know why Pep didn't play him over certain players. I don't know why Mahrez was signed rather than a more of a backup winger. And don't get me wrong, I love Mahrez, but I don't get why somebody like that was signed when we have somebody like Leroy Sané, or we had somebody at our team like Leroy Sané. In school a couple of years ago, I had to do this math project where I compared certain like growth elements to other things that were like already established, and I decided to do it on Leroy Sané. And I at first wanted to compare him to Ryan Giggs in terms of, this is Ryan Giggs, one of the best ever players in that position, left mid or left wing in the Premier League in all of history, and then compare in terms of numbers, in terms of goals and assists, him to Leroy Sané. I quickly realized Giggs, despite being a very quality player in terms of dribbling and things like that, he wasn't very good at getting numbers in terms of statistics. He wasn't great at getting assists or goals. I mean, like, his top season wasn't very high. I think Sané, in the year he won the Young Player of the Year, was already above Giggs' best season in terms of goals and assists. So instead, I looked at somebody else who I could compare and was maybe more similar in terms of being that like deadly finisher or passer in their team, as somebody who had that final end product. And I decided to go with Cristiano Ronaldo, and while that sounds a little ridiculous, and to me at the time I didn't think Sané was going to stack up to him, if you looked age to age like I did, and you did the way that they were growing in terms of every year getting more goals and more assists in the same rate that they were, Sané was actually slightly edging Cristiano Ronaldo. It was only in this past year, in terms of age-wise, where Sané was injured for the entire year, and that's the year where Ronaldo made that jump up from being a very good young player to being one of the best players in the world, which jumped up by 10 in terms of at least goal scoring. And I was excited to see if Sané could do something similar, but instead it seemed like he was going to leave, and then he was injured and he didn't get to play really at all for the entire season. And it pains me to see him go. As somebody who is not only just a fan of Leroy before he was at the team, and I'm going to be a fan of Sané probably for the rest of my life, for as long as he plays. He's just that kind of player that I love to watch, and he makes things happen. I was trying to put off being upset. I was trying to see what City might do to replace him. And somebody like Ferran Torres, as good as he seems, as good technical as he seems, he's very good at dribbling and doing skills, and he is fairly direct, and he is somewhat fast. He's just not comparable to Sané for me. He's not that same level of speed. Sané, I would back against any single player in the world. And in like a 2-season run, I think he was the only player to dribble past Van Dijk. And he was also the only player in one of the seasons to dribble past Wan-Bissaka more than once in a game. And the reason he was able to do that is because of his pace. His pace is unparalleled, or at least his acceleration or control of his pace is unparalleled with any other player. You can honestly pick anybody. I don't think anybody stacks up to him in terms of how they use their pace, besides maybe what Adama Traore is growing into. And I was kind of hoping City might go for somebody like that, who's very direct and fast and fills that void that was left by Sané, rather than somebody like Ferran Torres, who is younger and will take time to kind of grow into that sort of player. For me, he arguably won't grow into that kind of player because physically he doesn't have those same qualities. As of now, I'm just thankful that I got to see Sané play for my team. Over the 3 seasons that he was a City player, he has multiple moments that I'm always going to remember. He has that goal, his first goal against Arsenal, I remember him later in a game against Arsenal dribbling past multiple people and getting an assist. I remember against Newcastle, the filthy nutmeg on Yedlin, where he dribbled past a couple guys, turned back, and then it looked like he was going to pass it back. Instead he nutmegged Yedlin and then got another assist. And most importantly of all, there was the game against Liverpool where he helped us beat them, and then eventually we went on to win the title that year thanks to that goal in that game, kind of changing the momentum of the season for us and showing that Liverpool could be beaten even more. I think Bayern Munich fans should be extremely excited. I don't think there's many, if any, players that have the same ceiling that Leroy Sané does. I think Mbappe is probably the closest example. While Sancho, I think, is comparable in terms of the numbers he gets in goals and assists. I don't think he's physically at that same level. And while he's also going to be growing as a player, I think Sané, if he can just maintain consistency, will become the best player in the world. He has times where he switches off. There's games where he seems not very interested or not focused. And in those games, he's genuinely very bad. His touch is bad. He gives the ball away. He doesn't make the runs. He doesn't get into the right spaces. But when he's on it, there's nobody like him. He's super unstoppable. Nobody can get close to him. And there's maybe a handful of players like that where when they're really on their game, no, not even the top defenders can get anywhere near them. Already Bayern Munich looks scary enough with their team, and next year with a front line of Lewandowski, Sané, Gnabry, with Muller in behind that, that's very frightening. And I think if they do end up winning the Champions League this year, they'll have another chance of winning it again next year with the added strength of somebody like Leroy. And I hope that the injury didn't really negatively impact his... And I hope the injury didn't negatively impact him as much as it does to some people. That's a very serious injury he had, and I think he seems okay. He did play near the end of his time at City, and in training videos for Bayern now, he seems like he's back to his best. I saw in a video the other day he sat a couple of Bayern players down after going on this long run, and part of me really believes that Sané will become one of the best players, and I think he has the potential to be the best player in the world, and I just wish he had done that at City. Anyways, if you got this far, I'd love to hear what you have to say about Leroy Sané. What are your favorite memories of him at City? Do you think Pep made a big mistake letting him leave? Are you excited, if you're a Bayern fan, what he's going to do for your team? Remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching if you got this far, and I'll see you later.